with us. All the decisions we make, dear God, will be the right ones for our city. These things I ask in your name.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, Margie.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting, please. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion passes. City's monthly financial statement. Councilman Sabo.
No monthly financial statement, sir, but at this time I'd like to request to open the floor for public comment on suggestions for use, distribution of the American Rescue Funds.
Okay. Open the floor for public comments. Anybody got a comment? Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Thornton Cooper, ThorntonCooper. I'm a resident native of South Charleston, and there were three things I was making. Can you hear me okay? Three things I'm suggesting, one of which is spending the money is to keep adding more charging stations, which the mayor and Mr. Berge and all the people in the city who've been doing that. Thank you. Keep doing it. It's good. A lot of the state is backward. South Charleston is ahead of the game. You know, and a lot of I'm a member of the West Virginia Electric Auto Association, and some of our members live in this city. And we even did a video, which we released in April, which a lot of it was done in South Charleston. We're really proud of this administration and what you are doing. Please do it.
I don't want to interrupt you, Thornton, but we are actually doing more of those right now. We are in the process of doing more as we speak.
Level thirds.
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead. I just want to make sure I got that out to you.
Yeah. So that's one. The second thing is, since I've been charging my car down at the mound, I've actually started walking up on top of the mound. And for those of you who don't, it's a beautiful way to look at downtown South Charleston. I didn't do it much as a kid, and I really wouldn't have wanted to because the air was really polluted when I was going to school. But now, I've been going up there, and one thing I've noticed is, I walk about 2 miles a day, so I'm not afraid of walking up and down. But when they designed those steps in that wall, they did it, I guess, for aesthetics. And I'm all for aesthetics. My philosophy is, when you're building a wall, that's fine. Make it pleasant to the eye. But when you're building steps or a walkway, make it pleasant to the foot. And what I've noticed is when it's really hard. They're laid out, and those steps are laid out, and they're kind of dangerous, especially when you're walking down. And you have extra lights at night. They're really, really bright. I can tell you because I've been up here at sunset. But when you're walking down, especially, it's difficult. And obviously, I'm assuming this was done before the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. But if you want people to be able to get up there on that bench who are not, sure-footed, if you all could, spend some of that money or some the other funds of the city, that would really be appreciated. We have excellent employees in the city. They do excellent jobs in building sidewalks. I'm just bringing this to your attention because I would like more people to be able to use that. It's mostly young people now that go up there because I think older people are afraid, if they go up there once. And the third thing relates to what used to be Glendale Pool. Now, I served 2 years on the board of directors of Glendale Pool, and the last 6 or 7 years I was also in charge of membership. And what happened was after the city took over Canal Country Club and reopened Little Creek, I realized that the days of Glendale Pool were numbered. But I ran for the board in 2008, got on board, had to rewrite the bylaws, get us all legal, go around and try to get people to join the pool. And we tried, and we worked really hard. But the fact is, we got new members, but we couldn't come up with enough revenue. So eventually, the last season, the pool was open was 2015, and we came in 2016. We had a meeting with the board. I said, look, we cannot. You guys on the board, I recommend that we don't do it anymore because we had a lot of expenses. So we said okay, and we sent newsletters out to the members, how to join Windermere and how to join Ridgewood. Anyway, we we had about $20,000 in unpaid taxes. So we knew, real estate taxes. So we knew it was going to be, somebody's going to bid for it. And so 5 years ago this month, in July of 2016, somebody did bid. Never heard of the guy, looked up his name. I won't say his name here, but his first name and last name are the same on the internet as a person accused of selling drugs. Then, but he was able to get title the following year around January or February of 2017. Then the following year, a person with exactly the same first name and last name was convicted of selling drugs and is sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. He's up in Pennsylvania. I think it's the same person, but the point is, whether he owns that, the 1.4 acres, that was originally owned by the city of South Charleston. There was a rectangular piece that if you know where the Glendale Cemetery is, you know where the Glendale Playground is. But if you can imagine a rectangle, the part of the rectangle that's missing is the 1.4 acre tract that Glendale Pool was on. Glendale Pool Inc. was incorporated October 1st, 1958, had its first season 1959, and then last season 2015. But I was there a few days ago. You have not only do you have leaves out, well, you have benches, you have lounge chairs that we've gotten secondhand, of course, and so it's unsafe. I mean, I know the city's done a good job about boarding up all the buildings, but it just really looks awful. So if you all could address those three things, I'd appreciate it. And may I go out of order for 1 minute? I want to talk about my friend Ron Hutchison, who used to serve on this city council. He died the 25th of June, and I was at the visitation day, talked to his widow, Pat. I come before and addressed the council for over 40 years on various subjects. And back in 1982, I came up with the idea of 8 single-member wards for the city. I designed it. The council didn't want it, but anyway, Ron Hutchison was a Daily Mail reporter back there. I didn't know. He lived in South Charleston, didn't know what the party was. He was a good reporter. And then when the city council didn't go along and we had to have a petition drive all around the city, he covered that. And the voters voted to change the city charter, and that's why we have 8 single-member wards. But that was one of the ways that Ron Hutchison served the people of South Charleston, because he informed them about what was going on in this very room. The second way he did was when he served here on the city council. I think it was before Mayor Mullins was mayor, I think it was, but he followed after Charles Hagerman had served many years. And the third way that Ron, and he served the city in many ways, but the third way was after Eloise Jack, who's now deceased, and I reconstituted the South Charleston Democratic Executive Committee in 2011. Ron and his wife ran to be members of the committee, representing Ward 2, where he served as council. They were elected in 2015, and he was vice chair. Eloise died, and he's been the acting chair of the Kanawha County Democratic Executive Committee until the day of his death. I talked to Pat today. She's had 2 broken hips. She's in a wheelchair, and she is trying to heal. But I just wanted to mention Ron. He was a good man, and we're less for his loss. Thank you.
Thank you, Thor. Now, I don't want to shock anybody in this room here, but I want to tell you something. All 3 points Thornton brought up on the spending of the money, I agree with him. And he's exactly right. And we are going to aggressively pursue the charging stations. I've already instructed Gerald to do so, and we're working on those now. We're going to put a couple of Thomas Hospital as well. And so there's some other areas we're going to do. So he's exactly right on that. I think I told Gerald, I thought him one day, I said, my gut just tells me that we're going to have an explosion on electric cars pretty soon. I think we need to be, I want South Charleston to be ahead. I want us to be in the lead. So we are addressing that one. He's right about the mound steps. I've brought that up to Gerald before as well. I've walked them myself, and they are in poor condition. And Glendale,
we repaired them several times.
Yeah, but it's a tricky scenario working on that mound, because you got to be careful how you handle that, particularly with Native American organizations that keep a close eye on it, and they should, So it's a tricky
preservation.
Yeah.
Too, you can't go.
Yeah, it's
what
tricky.
their rules are, but
It's tricky.
those steps, I mean, we could look at that because I think they can be either repointed or replaced, but we'd have to just go through them.
Yeah.
It's no big thing, we've done
Yeah.
that before, so.
That's, my point is, that's exactly right, that needs to be addressed. And
Yes.
Glendale Pool, I can tell you all that I've had meetings with staff, and I've told them, put your thinking cap on, because that's gonna fall in our lap sooner or later, and we need to address Glendale Pool. And so, he is exactly right on all three of those points, and we do need to do that. And Glendale Pool is becoming a nuisance and an eyesore to the people living in that community on that side of our city. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It is. So, anyway, we will be addressing those, whether it's from the rescue funds or not, we'll be addressing those. I know we have certain rules and regulations maybe on how we spend that money, but those are not items we can't address within our own financial means, to be perfectly honest with you. So, we will be addressing those. We will, so. Okay, we're still in the public hearing section. Is there anybody else that has any comments? Anybody else at all? Okay, well, thank you all. We'll close the public hearing. Councilman Sabo, anything else?
No, not on that point, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you. We'll move on to petitions, communications, and public hearings. If you read the item A, please, Margie.
An ordinance to amend section 157.02 of Article 157 of the City Code of the City of South Charleston concerning the Human Rights Commission.
Is there a motion to send to a second reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman, who was that? Which one? Who got it? Okay, Strider. I knew there was one on each side. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item B, if you'd read the title, please, Margie.
An ordinance to repeal 4 sections and amend 1 section in Article 141 of the City Code of the City of South Charleston on parks and recreation.
Is there a motion to pass this on to the second reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Councilman Lilly, any discussion on this one? These, by the way, this is a defunct entity, correct, on the record? This is one of the reasons we're doing this. This entity, the Recreation Board, doesn't exist anymore. Matter of fact, everything we're doing here, we're doing for a reason, and it's put us in compliance. And so, anyway, this is a defunct entity. Kathleen and I worked for the Board of Park and Recreation at one time. So anyway, we have a motion and a second to send to a second reading. Any other further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item C, if you'd read the title, please, Margie.
An ordinance to enact Section 955.06 of Article 955 of the City Code of the City of South Charleston concerning types of refuse not collected by the city.
Is there a motion to send to a second reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Wolford. This is the same thing, right? It's a state law. We're trying to keep up with the pace of
Well,
it.
we're basically saying that we're going to follow what the state, if the state says you can take it, you can take it. If they say you can't take it, you can't take it. And then we clarified that we do take, it said we didn't take yard waste or brush, but we do because we have chippers. So that's saying that, I mean, it's just bringing in what we actually do.
We're bringing it in compliance. We're doing some house cleaning. Okay. All right. Is there, so do we have, I'm sorry, do we have a motion and a second on this already? Okay.
Yes.
Any other further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item D, if you read the resolution, please, Margie.
A resolution to dedicate Washington Park.
Is there a motion to pass? I thought there was a little bit more than that, Margie.
I'm sorry.
I think everybody knows what it's about. Yeah, okay, so we have a motion. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman DeFlippo. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the resolution, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you all. Item, let's see, consideration of any bids. Councilman Sabo.
Yes, sir, we have several this evening. The first being motion to accept the bid for dump trucks, Public Works Department. The Finance Committee of the South Charleston City Council has met and considered the following bid, which was advertised in accordance with the South Charleston City Charter and ordinances, and after careful consideration is the recommendation of the Finance Committee to award the following bids. Stevens Auto, quantity 1, a 2022 Ford F-550 snow package, single axle dump, at a price of $76,339.00. And Matheny Motors, one quantity, 2022 Freightliner M2 tandem axle snow package truck, $113,953, no cents. All items are within the budgeted amounts for these purchases and will be paid by the fiscal year 2022 budgeted city general funds for the Public Works Department. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Wolford. Is it Wolford?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Sabol?
Yes.
Councilman Wolford?
Yes.
Councilman DeFilippo?
Yes.
Councilman Hudson?
yes,
Councilman Strider?
Yes.
Councilman Lilly?
Yes.
Councilman Reimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walker?
Yes.
Mayor Mullins?
Yes.
As unanimous vote.
Anything else, Councilman?
Yes, sir. The next is for a garbage truck for Public Works. The Finance Committee of the South Charleston City Council has met and considered the following bid, which was advertised in accordance with the South Charleston City Charter and ordinances. And after careful consideration, is the recommendation of the Finance Committee to award the following bid. West Virginia Tractor, one quantity, 2021 Kenworth T 800 25-yard garbage truck in the amount of $223, even, no dollars, no cents. All items are within the budgeted amounts of these purchases and will be paid fiscal year 2022 budgeted city general funds, Public Works.
Councilman, did you say $223? Because if you did, we're going to buy more than one.
$223,000 in
I was
new
like,
Okay,
man, we got a
okay.
deal.
I mean, I'm thinking about buying 10 at the other price,
Yes,
you know what I
sir.
mean?
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion, and is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman DeFilippo. Any discussion on this one? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Sabol?
Yes.
Councilman Wolford?
Yes.
Councilman DeFilippo?
Yes.
Councilman Hudson?
yes,
Councilman Strider?
Yes.
Councilman Lilly?
Yes.
Councilman Reimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walker?
Yes.
Mayor Mullins?
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Anything else, Jamie?
Yeah, I've got a couple more I'll
All
try
right,
to
all
throw.
right, let's see how this goes.
This is golf course green drainage. The Finance Committee of the South Charleston City Council has met and considered the following bids, which were advertised in accordance with the provisions of the South Charleston Charter and ordinances. And after careful consideration, is the recommendation of the Finance Committee to award the following bids. Extreme Golf Management for green drainage, the amount of 31,228 square feet at an amount $2.10 per square foot, for a total of $65,578.80. All items are within the budget amounts of these purchases and will be paid from 2022 funds for the golf course line items. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Wolford. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Sabol?
Yes.
Councilman Wolford?
Yes.
Councilman DeFilippo?
Yes.
Councilman Hudson?
yes,
Councilman Strider?
Yes.
Councilman Lilly?
Yes.
Councilman Reimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walker?
Yes.
Mayor Mullins?
Yes.
As unanimous vote.
Go ahead, Jamie.
You sure?
Yeah, it's Kathleen's fault.
I know. All right, this is HVAC Certified Maintenance Agreement. The Finance Committee of the South Charleston City Council has met and considered the following bids, which were advertised in accordance with the provisions of the South Charleston Charter and ordinances, and after careful consideration, is the recommendation of the Finance Committee to award the following bid to Perfection Group Incorporated, annual comprehensive facility maintenance contract in the amount of $65,004.00, paid annually at $5,417 per month. All items are within the budget amounts, and these purchases will be paid from fiscal year 2022 funds. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Walker. Any discussion on this one? Roll call vote, please. Mark.
Councilman Sabol?
Yes.
Councilman Wolford?
Yes.
Councilman DeFilippo?
Yes.
Councilman Hudson?
yes,
Councilman Strider?
Yes.
Councilman Lilly?
Yes.
Councilman Reimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walker?
Yes.
Mayor Mullins?
Yes.
As unanimous vote.
Anything else, Councilman?
That's all, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. We'll move on to department head reports. I do have comments I want to make on these reports, but I'll bow to you guys first. What do you, anybody have anything, department heads?
Mayor, I just want to talk about the softball tournament that we
That's where I was
had.
going to. You go right ahead.
Oh,
No, you go right ahead. Go right ahead.
It was a huge success. I mean, the mayor sent me, he told me he wouldn't call me while I was on vacation, so he sent me about 1,000 texts and some pictures. And
It's his fault. We're on vacation.
Real. We're playing.
the crowd at one time,
It was
they-
insane.
probably maybe 4,000 people in the park, never seen it that big. And he sent me some pictures of the parking, and you see the
They were
pictures,
creative,
you
Gerald.
just can't imagine.
Very creative.
It was unbelievable, but it was very successful, and, you know, I appreciate the mayor for supporting this. It was great for the city, I think.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the hotels were full. Actually, from our north-south, you know, our north-south
Yeah.
game the prior weekend, then we moved on into this. And I told Gerald, first of all, I fumbled not letting the chief get the drone up. I wish we'd have got the drone up so we could have had an aerial.
Oh, that would have been
And I
great.
thought about calling him, and I thought, no, we're all too busy. I'm not going to do it. But I wish I would have done it now. But I told Gerald, and Gerald could say the same thing I'm going to say. He can make the same quote. I've been at every major event at Little Creek Park since 1980 in some way, shape, or form. Maybe there's a participant or an employee of the city or something. I've been there. I have never in my life ever seen that kind of crowd. Not even close. I mean, they were
I'm
parked
telling you.
at one time.
He called me and he goes, I turned around once.
I had to turn around, I couldn't get in the
There's
park. But at one time, the traffic was backed up to get into the ball games from Ellis Field, if you know where Ellis Field is, to the school bus garage,
Yeah, to your house, yeah.
down past my house, to get in the park for this.
Yeah, I was in that one.
Yeah. Was you in that one, Dave? It was, I mean, but it was good. Now, that being said, the overall evaluation, we had a post-event meeting with members of the, West Virginia SSAC, and they're tickled to death. Their ticket sales were up 40% for this tournament compared to last year. So they had the largest income haul they've ever had. So they're tickled to death. The crowd was good. I walked around, I made myself available. I walked around, somebody take a shot. Tell me, you're going to complain to me or you're going to pat me on the back or something. I want to hear. So I walked around and made myself available. I got no complaints, not one. Not to say that I got a couple by email, but you're always going to have some, but for overall, it was good. The parking and the traffic were the only issues we had, and we're going to address some of that. I've actually had a game plan in my mind to expand parking at the Rock for several years now. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it because it's going to be fairly expensive. If you all are familiar with the park, particularly below the Soapbox Derby, between Soapbox Derby and the Rock, you know we've had a slip there for a long time. And the road's pretty rough right there if you drive through there. So that's one of the ideas, is to fix that slip and bench it and use the bench for excess parking at the Rock as well.
Or build a parking building.
And going, but we think we can get, Gerald and I drove it yesterday, I think, was it today? Today, and we think we can get maybe 300 or 400 extra spaces around the Rock that'll help us, not only with this tournament, but we have some other times when we need the extra parking as well. But if we're going to continue to be a player, we need to address and expand our parking. So we're going to try, matter of fact, I've asked Rick and Gerald and Steve to put their heads together, and let's go ahead and get it bid out, because our next tournament for the state tournament for the girls softball is a couple days before Memorial Day of next year. Well, if you take winter time out, your construction time, you better get started, if you're going to do it. So we're going to go ahead and bid that out. We'll be bringing you guys that information here, hopefully within the next month or so, or two, or whatever it takes to get the bid going. But overall, it was a huge success for our city. I understand the media was very kind to us.
So as I say, hearing Bernie speak so highly from the SSAC side of it was tremendous, because he just raved on and on and on and on. Every time they interviewed him, he threw in about what a great facility, a great spot, the people working it, everything. And as far as parking, and if you've ever been to the one in Vienna, parking and traffic is every bit as bad up there.
Oh, sure.
So, it's just something and when you go to these other tournaments, when we had the Governor's Cup at Shawnee, the traffic was backed up both directions. People expect that.
Yeah.
When they come to these tournaments, they leave early, they get there, it's just it's going to happen.
Yeah, well, we were just a little, we were shocked at the crowd size, but the SSAC was shocked as well. And a lot of it had to do, you had local teams involved, like Hoover and Sissonville played each other 3 times.
Yeah.
So, and then of course you had Cabot Midland, pretty much local as well, and then you had St. Albans there. So, I think City Daniel told us 8 of the 12 teams that were there were within an hour's drive. So that had a little bit to do with it. But anyway, it was a huge success, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention Mick. I think Gerald would say that. Sean, Mick and Sean, those guys lived up there.
They did a great job.
And they did a great job. And Mick is, Sean is great at it as well. Mick's been around a little bit longer. He's Mr. Event. He just handles everything. And sometimes he handles some disgruntled people, but he does it very well. One guy threatened to whip him. Mick just laughed at him. He said, "Hey, you're going to whip me. Go on, move your car." And so, the guy said, "You're not going to tow it." He said, leave it there and find out. So, but anyway, but my point is, he really deals with, he does a really, really good job. He's really grown from when I hired him as a security guard back in 25 years ago or whatever, to where he's at today. And Sean's our new up and comer, but he does a great job as well. I call him new, he's been around longer than I think now, so. But they did do a great, Gerald went to the
Gerald
beach.
trained.
I texted Gerald because he went to the beach.
He was just testing Sean.
Yeah, but they all did a great job. Our staff, the kids, the young kids that were there cleaning it up, just great. So, you guys got anything else? I got one more thing I want to mention, and I think you do too as well. Let me lead that one off, and you take the details. We had an employee pass away that using the word legend is
Yeah.
absolutely true. This guy was a legend. His name was James Russell, better known to all of us as Tuffy. And he passed away, I think he was 92.
92,
And I think he didn't retire until he was, what, 86?
89.
89 years old when he retired. I think Tuffy's tenure at the city spanned over 60 years. And he was an amazing guy. He got his name Tuffy for a reason. You know, he would drive that Packard. I'll talk a little bit about him when I was there, but his reputation long preceded me being there. But he's one of those guys that he would literally stop his truck and make his guys get off his truck and pick up cigarette butts to keep his community clean. And he was just that kind of guy. He'd go out at 3 o'clock in the morning, pick his guys on his truck would be waiting for him out on the streets. He'd pick them up at 3 o'clock in the morning and start his routes. And I'd get phone calls. So, Mayor, we love that, and people loved him. He did Rock Lake Village and Armorview. People loved him.
In the flats.
And the flats, yeah, and in the flats. And I would get a phone call and say, Mayor, we love Tuffy, but he's backing that truck up at 3 o'clock in the morning with beef, and it wakes me up in the morning. He said, and I'd say, Tuffy, you can't go out at 3 in the morning. We start at 7. He said, okay. And he'd start at 7. And then he'd come back at 6. And then he'd be at 5. And he'd weed his way back to 3. And so what are you going to do? The guy's been there 50 years. Everybody loves him. So there's not much you're going to do except try to reel him back in. And I'll tell you 2 more things just real quick. Of course, the legend is he pressed up a Volkswagen Beetle one time back in the day. He'd pick up anything. So, I mean, that's what they say. That's the legend. He pressed a Volkswagen Beetle up in the back of his truck one time. But one of them I remember was there was a person in Armorview that had filled a trash can up full of rocks. And it was obviously very, very heavy. And Tuffy didn't pick it up. They couldn't lift it. Guy says, you're going to take it, I'm going to call the mayor. Tuffy said, mayor can't lift it either. That's tough. That's tough. So anyway, I could tell you 100,000 other stories. We just don't have time. But he absolutely positively is a legend. And I don't think there's anybody. I know there's nobody that's ever had a longer tenure for the city than Tuffy, and there will be.
But did he ever get a new truck?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, he got a
Because
new
he
one.
used to say that the truck he had, he'd be buried with.
Yeah, well,
That was his truck. Nobody used it but him.
and you know, they back in the day. Now he didn't. When I was out there, he didn't smoke. But apparently, in his younger days, he not only smoked, but he smoked those unfiltered cigarettes that you just one after another. Guy lived to be 92. I don't recommend that for anybody else, but he didn't work for him, I guess. But I'll turn it over to you, and maybe even Rick wants to comment on it as well. He worked for all 3 of us, and longer than all 3 of us.
Yeah. Their mayor's right. When I came there, of course, where my parents live on High Street, Tuffy was my trash guy when I was a kid.
Sure.
When I was 10, I remember Tuffy when I was 10, 12 years old. He was going up and down the alley. And one of the 2 quick stories, one of them was the alley where my parents lived on, they called it the Long Alley. And some lady called in and said, hey, your trash truck tore a fence down. So they went down, got a hold of Tuffy. I think the mayor was still there. And he said, I didn't hit his fence. And they said, well, Tuffy, it's still hooked to the truck. He drove it up the street. He didn't care. And another one, I mean, he was there 62 years.
Wow.
And he loved every minute of it.
Yes, he did.
I mean, he did. And there was an article that we talked about that he featured him when I was a kid and talking about Tuffy. But he ran into, like the mayor said, he always went out early and he reeled him in. And one morning, I got a phone call about 5 that said, Tuffy had a wreck. Is he okay? Yeah, he's fine. I'll tell him to come, I'll meet him at the garage, fill out the paperwork. When I get out there, we're filling out the paperwork, and I said, how much damage you do? He said, oh, about $500. So when it got daylight, I went up and looked at the property, and he had tore a split rail fence down, and as I was going up Village Drive, I saw this Honda coming down on the wrecker. I didn't pay any attention. I get up there, and I was talking to the homeowners, and I told him we'd fix the fence real quick, and he said, well, what about my car? And I said, what car? He said, you probably passed the Honda going off. And I mean, from the bumper to the bumper, there was it just tore the whole side out of it, where it hit the fender of the truck. And I don't know, it was about a day later, the insurance called and said, we're going to total. It was an older car, it wasn't worth much. So I called the people, and they said, that's fine. So I called Tuffy in, and I said, Tuffy, he told me it was only $500 damage. He said, there's probably not that much. I said, you totaled the car? He said, I don't care about that car, I'm talking about the truck. I'm sure Rick's got something too.
So my first time I worked for the city, summer worker, and I was out at the garage, and one morning, Tuffy says, son, you're with me. And so this is when we still had green barrels. And we were on, it was a Tuesday in Rock Lake Village, and it was on Glendale's first place you started. And there were 4 people on the truck then, and 3 of them take off, and I'm standing there. Tuffy says, son, what are you doing? I said, well, I don't know what to do. He says, well, get that barrel. And he says, every house has a can, and every can has garbage. Get it. And that was my on-the-job training.
That was what he was saying.
And it was true. You picked up, and if a bag of grass, which they'd be heavy, if it busted, you knew you were picking up every piece of blade of grass that was on that ground. You were picking it up.
Yeah.
So you tried not to bust any bags.
Yeah. He was something else. He's gonna be missed. That's for sure.
He was a real good man too.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was. I never heard him cuss.
No?
Never heard him cuss.
we have his Bible that came out of the truck.
Is that right?
Oh,
Tuffy didn't have to, when the guys worked on his truck, he didn't have to say a whole lot because he had a certain scowl about him that he would just kind of grit his eyebrows down to. He was like,
And I never realized it, I went over to the visitation, but he was a Marine. He was.
Yeah, I didn't know
he'd
that
been
either,
in
you told me.
Korea. They had a picture, on the collage, and he was a good-looking, young man in that Marine uniform.
He was definitely
yeah, like I say, he's the word legend fits him. That's for sure. So anyway, okay. Anybody got anything else?
I got one thing, as
Yes.
I usually do.
All right.
Everybody knows we've had this issue up on my hill with unfortunate situation with a lady, the house and everything, the neighbors. But I'll have to say that Gerald's guys, and seeing Roger and his crew out there, and Steve has been up there. I mean, this lady thinks Steve walks on water. So every time she comes, she goes, I'll wait for Steve to get here. Gerald down up or talk to her. She said, Steve's on his way. I know he is. So we just wait. Gerald and I just backed off and said, here comes Steve. But this is a very unfortunate situation. It has so many components to it. We have, the neighbors have jumped in, one in particular, to make it better for her. Gerald's guys were picking up stuff that was just, if you've ever watched any episode of Hoarders on TV, this is that, I would say even extreme to that. It's a terrible situation. We have some other things in it. The Chiefs guys have been up there doing welfare checks. Fire department has been up checking on things. I think we've all been involved in it, and it seems to be coming around to some extent. It's better than it was. It's way far from being what it can be, should be. But again, Gerald's guys jumping in there and picking up, just bags and bags of just stuff that none of us would ever want to do. And it was 100 degrees, and it was just making it even worse. But thanks to everybody up there for putting up with her and in that neighborhood, and my emails and texts and everything. So
That's been a challenge.
it is a challenge.
Councilman, I stopped on the way down to council meeting today, and she's sitting in her little garage space.
In her new little apartment.
In her little apartment, nice and clean, just happy as a lark right now.
Yeah, the neighbor came in and cleaned out her breezeway and garage, and it filled up our dump truck at least 2 times, and then we had a garbage packer up there just to get that material from that garage out of the way. And then he pressure washed her garage, painted the floor, went to Heart and Hand and got some furniture, got a refrigerator, so she has a place to get in. She was sitting out in the sun just roasting. And he made a nice little out-of-the-way place for her now, so we're all watching after her and everything, so. But again, these guys have really put up with a lot.
Yeah, that's been a challenge. It is sad. It is. But anyway, kudos, Steve, for that. Yeah.
That's a tough nut to crack, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. So, all right, anybody got anything else?
I was gonna add something.
Yes, sir, Ray Sean.
It'll be a year this weekend since we started offering the bumper cars. We've brought in $106,000 so far, which is 21,200 tickets were sold.
Wow.
And our initial investment was about 74,750.
So, yeah. Good deal.
We knew they would.
Yeah, they did.
Swim team still doing good?
Yeah. I watched them last night. My grandson got a first, third, and last. It's like he won the first.
Got them all. He touched all the bases.
Somewhere that every drop to be medium.
That's all right. That's all right. Nothing wrong with that.
He took after his mom, got the first, and he took
And I got my looks.
he took after his grandma, got the third, and
The last. All right, anybody got anything else? Motion to adjourn?